Tajmina? IGNOU makes 6 last minute suggestion. Images of Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson is a great American poet in the 19th century, and she is as important as Whitman. She is regarded as the forerunner of imagism. The original image and the special way of constructing these images, including wording, polishing, and rhythm, are her remarkable features. She made great contributing to American literature. The paper discusses her poetry in terms of the image of the poet and the style of her writing. It is widely agreed that Emily Dickinson was one of the greatest poets of America, and she is also the most mysterious woman in American literature. She left us 1,800 poems. However, when she was alive, only 7 poems were published. After death, her sister published her poems. This collection provoked sensation in American. Many critics began to study on her poetry. They thought her poetry had the features of the modernism and imagism. But in China, it wasn't until 1970 that the researchers on Emily Dickinson angled the content of the poems. And I think that is not enough. So this time I choose to study her poetry from two aspects: the images and the ways it constructs the images. So, if we would like to study about her poetry, it is also better to understand her poetry from the point of view of imagism. And that is the most important thing that it should be done at this very moment, because most great writers are not properly understood until unless the uh, imagism in them is not understood very properly. So we will put our interest into her imagism in the poetry. Some lines that we quoted at times and has to be remembered also. So this collection provoked sensation in many. Many critics began to study on her poetry. They thought her poetry had the features of modernism and imagism. But in China, it wasn't until 1970 that the researchers on Emily Dickinson were started, and most of the researchers were in terms of only one angle, the context of the poem. So she dealt with the context in the poem thoroughly, thoroughly well, and was very well known for her contextual thesis of writing poetry. She was born in Amherst, Massachusetts in 1830, and all her life she had been there living in an isolated life. Of course, her isolation is all her own, so she was called the nun of the Amherst. Martin 2004 is to 9. She entered into Mount Holyoke Female Seminary in South Hadley, but severe homesickness led her to return home after 1 year. After that, she began her monastic life. She did nothing but gardening, writing poems, and doing a little housework. She was a sensitive poem and had plentiful inner world in her poems. She showed us an original, different, and colorful world. In the world, she used her imagination, conveying us her own thoughts and understanding about nature, life, love, death. Although she never stated her theories of writing, poetry writing, her opinion about the aspects, just like brilliant pearls scattered in her letters and poems. If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold, no fire can ever warm me. I know that in poetry, if I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know this poetry. Martin. Dickinson were taken off. I know the Dickinson emphasized intuition, intimate recollecting of inspirational moments. She also thinks that only through the words, which are full of images, intense emotion can be stirred up. Her poems are mostly in free verse, in addition to such characteristics as the abundant use of dashes and irregular and often idiosyncratic punctuations and capitalization. Her mode of expression is characterized by clear-cut, delicately original imagery, precise diction, and fragmentary, enigmatic material pattern. Her style of creation coincided with images. So many images regard her as forerunner of imagism. She loved reading and Bible, and Shakespeare are her teachers, and Emerson also has influence on her. When she was alive, only 7 poems were published. However, after death, 1800 poems were found. Now, the images of Emily Dickinson's poems. In Emily Dickinson's poems, both the theme and the style of the construction display her imagination or originality on the way of writing poems. Her family, religion, and emotion all affected her creation. The theme of image, the nature of the theme in the poem that Emily left to us. There are a lot of ones describing nature or using nature in the background, and many people consider that these poems which are related to nature are the most successful. For Emily Dickinson, nature is a spiritual sustenance. She lived an isolated life but placed all emotions on nature. From the starry sky, landscape, sun, and moon, to the insects, bird, and animals, everything in the subject which she glorified. Her observation is careful. That is because she loved it deeply. She was skillful in portraying an image in a twisted way. Now, please appreciate the following poem. A bird came down the walk. He did not. He did not know I saw. He bit an angel worm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass, and then hopped sideways to the walls. To let a beetle pass, he glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all around. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head. Like one in danger, cautious, I offered him a crumb. And he unrolled his feathers and rode him softer home. That oars divide the oceans, too silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of loam. Leaves splashes as they swim. Through careful observation and portrait of details, the poet drew lovely picture of a lovely little bird hunting for food, and then hopped sideways to the wall to let a beetle pass. This line highlighted the bird's vividness. Poet's outlook on nature was also revealed in the poem. In the fourth stanza, the poet wants to be close to the bird, so she offered him a crumb, but he, like one in danger, cautious, and he unrolled his feathers and moved and rode him and softer home. The bird becomes an emblem for the quick, lively, ungraspable wild essence that distances nature from human beings who desire to appropriate or tame it. The most remarkable feature of the poem is the imagery of its final stanza, in which Dickinson provides one of the most breathtaking description of flying in poetry. From the picture, we can see the poet wanted to establish a relationship and understanding with nature. However, the outcome runs counter to the purpose. Nature, symbolized by the bird, diffused the goodwill. There is still barrier between them, though a simple poem Emily gave us enlightenment. Maybe human beings should try to find a better way to get along with nature so that the harmony between nature and human can be achieved. Except the animal, the plants like trees, blue, bell, lotus, rose, daffodils, violet, and strawberry have all been in a poem. In opinion, human is one of part of nature. Only if we know all about nature, we can know about ourselves. She also regarded the nature as the reflection of the human heart. Therefore, in one hand, she sang of nature. On the other hand, she also presented the frightening sight of nature, just as the following poem, number 1624, abruptly with no purpose. to any happy flower. The frost behead it at its play. In accidental power, the blonde assistant passes on. The sun perceives unmoved the measure of another day for an approving God. The frost injured the happy flower accidentally. However, the sun was unmoved and doing nothing but fulfilling his duties indifferently. Is that really no surprise? Actually, it should be surprising. So the first line used irony. Obviously, Emily was not only describing the sight but also expressing her feelings. The natural phenomena alluded that society was different to barbarity. There are also many poems of natural phenomena, for instance, the alternation of the seasons, the rotation between life and death, the rise and fall of the tide, and sunset and sunrise. Some common things showed indubitable real beauty which had never been found by common people. She liked to link to the different images and into them a new meaning. You can feel this in poem number 214. I taste liquor never brewed, from tankards scooped in pearl. Not all the vats from the Rhine yield such an alcohol. Inebriate of air am I, and debauch of dew, reeling to endless summer days from inns of molten blue. When landlords turn the drunken bee out of foxglove's door, when butterflies renounce their dreams, I shall but dream the more. Till seraphs swing the snowy hats and saints to windows run to see little tipplers leaning against the sun. Emily originally compared nature to liquor. The I in the poem drink heavily the liquor and immersed in the state of the being, drunk with it. I was joyful because of intoxicating with the beauty of the nature. In poem number 50, I started early, took my dog. Poet made the sea as the theme, use metaphor